And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. Friends, we're still on our quest. We're on our quest for that 8-figure practice, right? We're talking to financial advisors and we're saying, hey, there is a way that you can grow a business that will reward you, your team, your clients, and change your family's trajectory, your family dynamics. A few weeks ago, I began this series because I find myself speaking to so many financial advisors nationally on a weekly basis. And as I've mentioned in the last few episodes, look, if you're not a financial advisor and you're a business owner, this is still important information that you can apply to your business. As we look at dentists, as we look at tire change places, as we look at swimming pool companies, as we look at road crews, whatever type of business that you're in, maybe you're a doctor, whatever it is, you can still apply the same concepts to your business. And if we apply these concepts correctly, friends, we can make an 8-figure exit. It is possible. It's highly possible if you do it right. There is a formula to success, and we're trying to analyze that. So this week, I want to talk about the productivity paradox. The productivity paradox. How do you increase your NOI, your net operating income, in your business, your advisory practice without burnout? I've been coaching business owners and now financial advisors and business owners for 2 decades. I've been a business owner for almost 30 years. I've sat on boards. I've given conference speeches. I've written award-winning books. I've spoken to the microphone now for some 200 hours of here's how you grow business. And one thing is certain, no matter when I start this conversation with a new client, a new colleague, a new friend, I ultimately hear this statement, I don't have enough time. Or they'll say, what do you want me to do? How am I going to do that? See, what we're saying in that moment, and by the way, I've said that as well myself, as my coaches pushed me. I was in the gym a while back and I had this goal of hitting a certain bench press number and some deadlift numbers, and the coach put this weight on, and I'm like, I'm not ready. And I have a female coach, she goes, you're right. The very fact you said that, you're not ready, but you can do this. And I went, no, I can't. She goes, you're right. The very fact you said that, you can't do this, but you can. And at that point, she knew what was going to drive me. So I literally laid it on the bar and I did it for a set of 5. I was like, dude, she goes, told you. But you have a coach pushing you. And so as I'm listening and trying to help people grow their business and grow their net worth, I hear I can't do it. And what we're saying is, look, I already see how much work I'm doing. And now for me to get to this number, for me to grow my practice to an 8-figure exit, I'm going to have to do this much more work. And I just don't have time. Why? Think about that. Time is the one thing that all of us have that's equal. We have in front of us 24 hours. Now, again, there's always the exceptions. Health could be an issue. Some of us have various things in life that could preclude our time, but we all are given, as we walk this earth, 24 hours in a day. And where we're at today is the sum total of the choices and decisions we have made with what has been given to us, pro or con, with the time that we have. So the pain point is, how am I going to increase my NOI and I don't even have enough time to serve all the clients that I currently have? How am I going to drive my value up whenever I can't get to this new prospect because I'm dealing with this one over here? So let's deal with the solution. Let's deal with this productivity paradox is what I called it. Let's deal with this. The solution is simple. It's know your time frame and your most profitable services. That's the simple solution to it. But we need to take a little harder dive into this conversation so that we can diffuse all of the objections that you and I as business owners and financial advisors would have that prevent us from reaching our 8-figure number. Step one is simple. You have to define your success. How do you do that? Well, we know where we want to be and we know when we want to get there. If we know where we want to be and when we're going to get there, then that is most of the battle. Simple. I'm going to leave it at that. Step 2 is we have to define our service. So if we know where we're at today and we know where we want to be, then what are we going to do or what are we going to provide to allow us to reach that future destination. There was a 2022 Fidelity RIA benchmark study. Powerful study. I love reading these studies that come out from various companies, and Fidelity did one in 2022, and it found that registered investment advisors who had under $1 billion in assets had basically three primary services. 96% of us offered financial planning. Roughly about 100% of us offered some sort of an investment or portfolio management, commentary, design. 64% dealt with risk or insurance planning. And there's a few other subsidiaries out there like ERISA and things of that nature. But for the most part, those are the three primary services that carried the weight of the study: financial planning, investment management, and insurance solutions. So what are we currently doing? What is your current offer? Under the Heritage Investors company that I owned, that's now since been closed and no longer open, we were doing financial planning, investment, ERISA, and business consulting. We had 4 primary services, and we had systems that would link all of those together. So we knew what our services were. Under other companies, they primarily focus on investment only, which is fine. Or they provide investment management only, I should say, which is fine. What is your service? What is your service? So once we know the service, next thing we have to look at is how much resources are we dedicating or allocating per service. Now, let's break that statement or question down a little bit further. What services require the most use of resources? So if we have 4 different services, investment management, perhaps you have a firm that has an investment management team. Perhaps you're using a TAMP, third-party asset management provider, and they're charging you 0.25 or 0.5 or 0.015 or whatever the number is they're charging you. There's a cost involved. Maybe you offer financial planning and you have a paraplanner in office on staff that you're paying a salary plus all the software that goes with it. There's all these different costs that goes with the service. The same report by Fidelity showed that firms between $250 million of assets under management to $500 million ran a revenue per service to show that the average revenue per client was about $10,000. And so whenever you broke it down, you could see that financial planning would provide this much in revenue to that average client base. They would provide X number of dollars to that average $10,000 per client number from investment management. So what we have to look at is which service is eating up our resources. Perhaps, just perhaps, financial planning is big for you, but it's not making money. When I first joined WealthSource, and just candid disclosure here, when I first joined WealthSource, they had a financial planning department, but it was not profitable. We had to make some major overhauls to make it where it was going to be profitable. They had a service, but it was the resources were tearing into the revenues. That's not uncommon, friends. I see it in many, many, many different companies in many different disciplines around the country. I have one client that said, yeah, but this is a loss leader. And I'm like, why does it have to be? Why can't we be profitable with each offering? If we're going to make an offering, do we really want it to lose money? So as we look at the resources and the services that we offer, one of the things we're also looking for is we're dedicating the cost. We're looking for what's called a concentration risk. Concentration risk. Back in 2018, the Heritage Investors was off the ground, and it was rolling, and we were turning a profit finally. But we had a concentration risk as it related to financial planning. We were making more money in financial planning on retainer basis than we were from all of our other offerings. And should 1 or 2 clients leave, then it was going to put us in a position where the owner was going to have to live off of debt. I was going to have to go into debt, or I was going to have to terminate some key employees that I didn't want to have to terminate. And so I had some concentration risk that I was dealing with. Whenever I talk to financial advisors, I'll drive in and say, hey, let me see the data of your top 10 clients. And oftentimes the data of the top 10 clients will provide 60, 70, 80, 90%. I saw one at 91% of the revenue came from 3 clients. And they had this massive business built on these 3 individuals. It would crush their business and their value should one of those individuals, something happen. Not even they get ticked and leave, just should they be gone? Should something happen in their business that was providing their resources? So we've got to look for concentration risk. As we're diving into the examination of expenses per offering, one of the things we need to also look at is what is our lifetime value for each offering. Stephen J. Wilson and Associates did an interesting study that we found that showed that the average client life is 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. And what they were talking for specifically is an investment advisor client that comes in and asks you to manage their portfolio for them, let's say, would stay with the RIA for about 3 to 5 years. Now, I have other studies that were a little predated this one that showed 7 to 9 years. But with the flux of movements of retirees and with COVID and with the movement of price points, et cetera, in the industry, we're starting to see the client loyalty drop back up to about 3 to 5 years. There's probably also some generational aspects inside there because of the Gen Y, Gen X, Gen Z versus the baby boomers generational movement that's happening as well. So when we're looking at the marketplace compared to our business, how do our services stack up? Are we making money in all the services? And what is the stickability of the clients within each service? There's some tough questions that we have to analyze if we're going to actually deal with this productivity paradox. We have to take an examination of how is our business model or metrics built at this time. Okay, assuming we've done that, now we're going to dive just a hair further and we're going to look at what is our average revenue per client. Or you may say per household, depending on your terminology. In the same Fidelity report, it showed that firms that had less than $1 billion in assets showed that the average account size, the average household account size, was that of $1.5 million in assets under management. So $1.5 million assets under management, providing roughly $10,000 a year in revenue, which gave roughly about a 0.9% total fee. That was the average fee. That doesn't include, by the way, the TAMP cost, the asset management costs, et cetera. That's pure AUM numbers. In this report, the same size firms from 2021 showed that the average advisor managed roughly $762,000 in revenue. So we could quickly ascertain that, hey, if we've got $762,000 in revenue and the average account size is roughly 1.5 million, we can backwards engineer and say, hey, here's how many clients on average this particular demographic is handling. Now that's average numbers. You may not be in that range of under $1 billion. You may be in the $250 million range. You may be at $2 billion in assets under management, and the ranges will move around. But you have to know a starting point of what is your average revenue per client. That is a key indicator. That's almost a critical success factor for an RIA. So let's find that number out first. What is the average revenue per client? Then let's find another point of reference before we get into this issue that we have within this paradox of productivity. What is the direct cost, the hard direct cost per service? Let me say it again. What is your hard direct cost per service? Let's go to financial planning. Perhaps, just perhaps, you're offering financial planning to your clients. You know what your average cost is. This is where I typically bill a client out at. But if you didn't have that service, what would you not be spending money on? Perhaps, just perhaps, you wouldn't have specific technologies that you are using. There's some technologies that are $300, $400, $500, $600 a month just to provide just the technology licensing fee for that particular service. There could be not just one piece of technology, but it could be 2 or 3 different pieces of technology that are needed just to provide financial planning. Perhaps, just perhaps, there is legal fees in dealing with the financial planning agreement from a compliance risk. Perhaps there's archiving fees. Perhaps there's disclosure costs, mailing costs. There's lots of costs for each service. Maybe there's CE that you have to do to get certain knowledge, provide that certain service to somebody. So what we're looking for is what is the direct cost per service? A few episodes back, we talked about direct and indirect expenses. What we're looking for is direct expenses here. Direct expenses are those things which are directly tied to the service we're offering. We have to know what is our percentage of cost. So if we know our revenue on an annual basis that the service is yielding, and we know our expenses, we simply divide our expenses by our revenue and we get the total average cost of what our direct costs are. We need to know that number. That is a starting point number. We need to know one more number before we can start fixing this. We have to know the percentage of your time per service. Time is money. How much time are you spending actually doing the work? Whether that is actually doing financial planning, doing the data entry, doing the data collecting, meeting with clients. How much time are you spending? Because see, we could charge somebody $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for a financial plan, a comprehensive plan, but then inside there, we could have direct cost of a hard cost with technologies, various things of $5,000. And then all of a sudden, if you're trying to reach an 8-figure practice where you should be billing out probably, $350, $400, $500 an hour, depending on where you're located in the country, then you're running into a problem that service is actually precluding you from reaching your 8-figure practice. My friend and colleague, Michael Kitsis, you may know him. He's a thought leader. He's brilliant at mind. He and I will be on stage here in a couple of weeks at the same event. In fact, I think I will be introducing my friend for his particular hot topic that he's talking on. But he did a study. He and his team did a study that said the average advisor spends roughly 46% of their time in middle office tasks. In other words, you're spending the majority of your time, almost the majority of your time, doing the things that doesn't pay you for the time that you are worth, or for the value that you're worth. And if you, the producer, or you and your team who are producers, are not spending their time on the things which pay them that rate to which they are licensed for, then your value is never going to reach that you aspire to have. For listening to this podcast for any length of time, that I have a special point in my heart for dentists. Dentists are a special breed. They're almost as frustrating to work with as we financial advisors are. Not quite. They have a little bit more training on collaborating with people than we do. But nonetheless, they're an interesting breed of people. They're fun to work with for me. Not many people want to work with them. Wouldn't it be strange if you went in one day and you had a crown put on? Your dentist, he or she, did an excellent job. Maybe you had to have a root canal. They did an excellent job. Maybe you got a full mouth bridge redone, I have one dentist that loves dealing with zygomatic implants and all these other crazy things that these really talented people do. So you're going through this advanced thing and your teeth are beautiful. And now it's time to come back 6 months from now to get your teeth cleaned. And lo and behold, the dentist is going to clean your teeth. That makes no sense. That's why you have a hygienist, right? You have a specialist who can do it. Is the hygienist billed out at the same rate as the dentist? No. Why? Well, for one, the dentist went to school for 8, 9, 10, 12 years, where the hygienist did not go near that long for that particular designation. It's not even the same discipline. But yet in our world, in the financial advisory world, we think it makes sense to go in and spend our precious time as the, quote, doctor of our practice on middle office and back office things. It kills, let me say it again, it kills your 8-figure opportunity. So we get to the point that you got to change something. You've got to make an adjustment. There's a few adjustments you can pull. There's a few levers that you can pull within business. You can decrease your cost. You can look for perhaps technology alternatives. So let's go back to my financial planning example. You're charging X number of dollars for financial planning. You have a hard cost of Y on your technology, and you have your hard cost of your time, whatever your time is valued at. And you realize you're not making any money for your time. So you could look at decreasing your cost, your technology costs. You may try to find an alternative. So it's easy to do, but you're going to have to spend time researching to try to figure out how you're going to reduce the cost. Typically, when we deal with business consulting, there is a combination of decreased cost while simultaneously driving up additional revenue, which we're going to come back to that. I found a quote from Paul, and if you're listening to this, buddy, I'm going to butcher your name, but it's Tinnirello, Tinnirello. He's the chief operating officer at Blakely Financial Group. And here's what he said. Technology evolves so quickly. It's incumbent on us to stay ahead of it. We have a relatively thin layer of management, but the team leverages technology to effectively manage responsibilities, which means we're able to do more with less people. We're able to do more with less people. That's technology. So whenever we're looking at trying to cut costs, one of the key areas that we could utilize is technology to help us reduce cost. What I see in some practices is they go really good on technology, but because of their loyalties as it relates to a long-term employee, that's perhaps irrelevant at this portion, or they're not skilled enough to do another position, but we hold on to them and thus we drive our values down. So we've got to decrease our costs. Another thing we can look at doing is we can increase our revenues. Now that's a hard one. That's a hard one in the financial space, unless your revenues are just so far below average. And candidly, friends, there are many of you out there, many financial advisors out there that you're just not charging enough. By the way, I wasn't either. I can remember a few years back whenever we launched out on financial planning because we saw the need and how that benefited so many clients. Oh man, helping them see the success they were having in their practice, in their business, in their life. So we used financial planning. And I can remember my first financial plan was $750. And man, I spent probably 3 weeks working on this plan. And whenever I delivered it, the client was happy. And I came back and I made like $1.79 per hour. Like, dude, I could have worked at the McDonald's and made a little bit more money than that. But yet it was a win because we got our sales endorphins kicked in, and so we don't often charge enough. So we can cut our costs, we can increase our revenue. Those are pretty common ideas, and chances are you're already looking at those. You may not have pulled the trigger, and there may be things that a good coach can help you with. But here's where it gets even tougher. You can delegate tasks. It helps you increase your time. However, it's going to increase cost. If you delegate things away from you, like we talked about last episode of hiring a CFO, it will increase your cost, but it will free up your time. And as long as you delegate tasks while you're moving some of these other levers, you can quickly generate a margin or increase the profitability of your company while not killing yourself. So that's a way you can move. You could limit your service offering. I'm actually looking at this within our own company right now. We have a powerful suite of investment opportunities, but not every investment opportunity is being utilized by the masses. And there's only a few select inside there. It's like, you know what? If we could limit this offering a little bit, we may pick up some profitability, we may increase our time, and we may be able to actually drive value. However, the con is are we going to lose the ability to attract new clients because of these offerings? So it's another move that you could make. Now, one of my favorite moves you can make in order to drive up your particular options for changing value or changing your productivity is build robots. Or systems. Systems. The more systems you can build, you increase your profitability. The con is it takes time. You don't see increased profitability immediately. Sometimes it may take 12, 18, 24 months before you see the profitability increase. So now we've reached the point where we know what we have to do. What's next? We begin implementing. Yeah, if it was only that easy, right? Now we got to figure out how much is it going to cost us. Are we going to have to spend a little bit more money right now in order to free up margin in 12, 18, 24, 36 months? Or are we going to spend more money right now that we may not ever recoup? You see, implementing a strategy costs you. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. How much training is needed? Do you have the capabilities within your office? Is it going to cause future deficiencies? This is the cost involved with making decisions. Not only do we have a cost involved, but we also have this issue of delegating. We just started off the episode saying, hey, we are stretched to the max. We cannot do anything else. You may need to hire somebody to help you. Whenever I'm working with business owners outside the financial world, some that, they make them go out and create a new product and they sell it and they instantly get a profit. And I have a hardest time in the world trying to tell the business owner, look, go hire this particular person that can help you do this. And you may have a short time crunch. But if the product does what you say it's going to do and yields you the results that you say it's going to yield, then my goodness, this is a great business move. We just have to calculate the hurdle rate. In our world, the financial advisory world, we have a longer duration before we actually capture the revenue. So when we start looking at the delegation or the implementation of strategies, we have to make sure we either have the right team or we have the resources to deploy the right team, and then we have to be patient. We can't be weary in well-doing. And that is what drives so many So many, and I wish I could scream this from the mountaintop, so many financial advisors and business owners for that matter from actually reaching the 8-figure success because they want instant gratifications. We all do. We're spoiled. So we got to delegate and then we got to be patient. I told one client one time, he's a hard-headed guy. I've known him for his whole life just about. And if he's listening to this, you're going to start laughing because you know who I'm talking to. We're riding one day and I'm like, dude, stop. He looked at me. I'm like, you are now the captain, the admiral of an aircraft carrier. If you turn this thing too fast, all the planes are going to fall off the top deck. You're not driving a speedboat anymore. You can't do a 180 and just go the opposite direction. Whenever we delegate, we have to have time for the systems to work. Again, you can limit your services. You might start bringing down the offerings. That's easy. That's an easy move. Ultimately, it's going to come down to operations. Do you have the operational paralysis to help you drive this paradox of productivity? Friends, as I understand it, and I think I have some decades of experience here, this productivity paradox, it's not only within the financial advisory practice, it's in every business. And if other businesses can figure out how to do exactly what we outlined here, why don't we? Why don't we? You can build an 8-figure financial advisory practice. You can do it. It can be done. But it's not going to happen by accident. We're walking through this series now to try to show you this. There's so many things involved with driving an 8-figure practice. If you're like, dude, I need help. You're speaking my language, bro, but I need help. Hey, reach out to us. We have a group of advisors of my colleagues, group of colleagues who have gone through this. You've heard my story. We have a group of colleagues who have gone through this that can help you, that can coach you, that can drive you to where you need to be, to where you desire to be. We can drive you there. It's not going to be easy. I got a lot of gray hair today, but it's possible. If you're not a financial advisor, friends, these exact same principles apply to your business. The exact same principles. You can use these principles to increase your value. You can use these principles to increase your productivity. There doesn't have to be a paradox around productivity. We don't have to be tired. We can drive our NOI without burning out. Until next time, friends, y'all go out and make it a great day.